Steph Curry has long been associated with Maryland-based sportswear company Under Armour. While that company is now a significant player in sports apparel, it is a small fry compared to Nike. The smaller company is worth around $3.5 billion. However, Nike is valued at $195 billion right now. So we crunched this super advanced math, and Nike is worth 55 times more than Under Armour. Considering Nike's firepower, you would assume they could sign any athlete they want to promote and exclusively use their products. Indeed, the list of superstars under the umbrella of the Beaverton, Oregon-headquartered conglomerate is like a who's who of international athletics. The company that built its reputation through an agreement with Michael Jordan has since housed Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, Cristiano Ronaldo, Rafael Nadal, LeBron James, and Kobe Bryant, just to name a few. But their influence goes far beyond a select handful of superstars. They have a massive amount of regular run-of-the-mill professionals signed, including an estimated 74% of all NBA players, if you include their subsidiaries. Yet Steph proudly sports the wares of the much smaller Under Armour company. Why is that? We tried to get to the bottom of this mystery. In today's basketball world, Steph Curry's brand recognition is only rivaled by LeBron, and Curry has made the Under Armour brand and has held incredible significance for its financial well-being. Back in 2016, Morgan Stanley analyst Jay Soule estimated the value of Curry's potential value to the Maryland-based company at no less than $14 billion. Soule's call on UA's stock is bearish relative to other prognosticators, but for one man's power to change everything. He explained, UA's U.S. basketball shoe sales have increased over 350% YTD. It's Steph Curry's signature shoe business, which is already bigger than those of LeBron, Kobe, and every other player except Michael Jordan. Steph was drafted 7th overall in the 2009 NBA draft and played his rookie season in 2009-10. At that point, the young guard was an up-and-coming player but had not yet proven his excellence. Like most up-and-coming players, the young Curry had always played in Nike shoes. But more than that, Steph's godfather, Greg Brink, actually works for Nike. Therefore, some of the most memorable games in his early career were played in Nike shoes. For example, on February 28, 2013, Steph played at Madison Square Garden and pummeled the Knicks for 54 points. A game that did much to establish the Warriors guard as the coming thing in the NBA. Steph did all that in a beloved pair of Nike Zoom Hyperfuse shoes. So, of course, Curry still has them. The legendary shooter remembers, "They're not up front and center, but I definitely kept all my favorite shoes, just as a memory of where my career has gone." Steph's contract with Nike ended in 2013, the same year as that awesome game against the Knicks. The Oregon-based company certainly wanted to keep the up-and-coming star, so they scheduled a meeting to discuss future cooperation. But, in retrospect, they suffered from a great degree of overconfidence. The first sign of a problem was the personnel present at the meeting. Lynn Merritt was, and remains, the most visible and respected face of relations between Nike and their star athletes. Merritt is very close to LeBron James and made retaining King James a priority. However, he did not bother to show up to the meeting with Steph. Instead, Nike sent Nico Harrison, a sports marketing director, to run the meeting. Whether this was intended as a snub or not, Curry and his team were not amused. Perhaps more importantly, the terms of the deal were not up to Steph's standards. Nike and other sneaker companies run training camps for promising young players. While the apparel empire had offered young stars Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis the opportunity to run a camp, they snubbed Steph. That was clearly a big deal to the Warriors star. See, he had participated in a camp run by Chris Paul, which had greatly aided Curry's development. At this stage in his career, the up-and-coming shooter wanted to give back and help youngsters maximize their potential, but just as crucially, he viewed it as a sign of disrespect. Steph has many advisors and mentors, but they all pale in comparison to his father, Del Curry. Del was an excellent player in his own right, the NBA Sixth Man of the Year in 1994, and the elder Curry had been around the block and knew red flags when he saw them. This 2013 meeting with Nike was full of them. Del remembers that the meeting started off badly and got worse from there. For some reason, the pitch started with a Nike executive calling Stefan. Papa Curry remembers, "I heard some people pronounce his name wrong before. I wasn't surprised. I was surprised that I didn't get a correction." The final nail in the coffin was a PowerPoint slide featuring Kevin Durant instead of Steph. probably because they had just copy-pasted from the Oklahoma City Thunder Stars slides. At this point, Dell was convinced that Nike was not the right home for his son. He explained, "I stopped paying attention after that." This may sound petty, but there is some strong logic behind the elder Curry's decision. He said of Nike, "They have certain tiers of athletes. They have Kobe, LeBron, and Durant as their three main guys. If he signed back with them, we're on that second tier." After the meeting, Dell recommended to his son that he sign elsewhere. It comes down to that age-old dilemma. Would you prefer to be a big fish in a small pond or a smaller fry lost among the big guys? For the elder Curry, there was no question. "Don't be afraid to try something new," was his sage fatherly advice. But here is the part Nike will be kicking themselves about to this day. The terms of the contract allowed the Oregon-based company to renew the contract without Curry's approval, so they just needed to offer him $4 million a year. When you compare that to the millions they have lost to UA over the years, make this mistake. That has got to hurt. Steph's unique appeal is vastly different from his generation's other big NBA stars, or any era for that matter. Think of LeBron or Durant. They are big, strong, and tough. Meanwhile, Curry is known for his baby face, big smile, and playing around with his mouthpiece. At first look, nothing is imposing about Steph. That goes against the entire philosophy of Nike. One observer analyzed the issue the company had with Curry. Everything that makes him human and cuddly and an unlikely monster is anathema to Nike. They like studs with tight haircuts and muscles. It wasn't all a question of image either. To be fair to Nike, the Curry of 2013 was not yet the killing machine we all know and love. 2012-13 was a spectacular season for Steph. Most notably, he broke the all-time season record for three-pointers. During that campaign, the young Warriors star broke Ray Allen's 269 mark, made with the Seattle Supersonics in 2005-2006. Analysts already appreciated that the game was changing and guards would play a more prominent role on the court than ever before. But they had no idea just how crucial Steph would be in this revolution, nor did they have any idea how far-reaching these changes would be. Certainly, Curry was starting to emerge as one of the better young players of his generation, but he had just averaged over 20 points for the first time in his career in the 2012-13 season. Steph was just developing that unparalleled ability to dominate the game. Steph needed a company that recognized his unique appeal and playing potential. The raw potential for Curry to be an NBA icon was already there, but he had to be marketed differently than most stars. Under Armour had already set their sights on Curry from day one. They saw an opportunity for a potential star who may fall between the cracks for a bigger company. So Chris Stone, who works for the company, remembers, "The year Curry was drafted, we were actually making shoes for him getting ready to pitch, but he had already signed with the other guys." So how did Under Armour get Curry's attention? They ruthlessly pursued Warriors rookie Kent Bazemore and sent him tons of free swag. So much free stuff that the players signed with other companies were legit jealous of. Steph sat up and noticed. It also helped that Kent and Curry became fast friends. Soon the company was working closely with Bazemore to reel in the sharp-shooting up-and-coming superstar. But don't worry, Under Armour wasn't using Kent. He soon made several $100,000 a year from the company for Bazemore's sterling service in landing the baby-faced assassin. Steph claims his one-year-old daughter, Riley, ultimately made the call. He put 3 sneakers on the table. A Nike, 1 Under Armour, and a third from an unnamed company. She reportedly threw away the other 2, picked up the UA item, and handed it to her proud father. One of his earliest ads with the company shows that the Maryland-based apparel company understood something about the coming basketball revolution. They brought Jamie Foxx to feature in and narrate an Under Armour commercial. The script the Hollywood star read went, "Just like that, all of a sudden big ain't so big no more, small ain't so small. And with the flick of the wrist, the step-back 3 is the new dunk. Follow-through is the new poster, the range is the new hang time." Steph values the individual attention that Under Armour has given to him and his brand and is fiercely loyal to the company. When Kevin Durant criticized his brand of shoes, Curry shot back, "Dang man, why you have to come at me like that? Don't hate on what you don't know about." He later explained that he didn't like the slander of my kicks like we're non-factors. To us, fans, the relationship that matters is between the player and their team. And for Curry, the connection with Golden State is indeed strong. He may be a Warrior for life. However, Remember that for many athletes, the relationship with their apparel company is more long-term and often more rewarding than with their teams. For a big star like Curry, the company is there to serve him individually in a way that an NBA franchise simply cannot match.